Hello everybody, welcome back. My name's Tholan and today we'll be looking at another factorial guide, but this time we'll be looking at how to create your Promethium Science. Now, Promethium Science is one of the endgame activities we get to do in Factorio, and it is created by bringing in biter eggs and quantum processors and Promethium asteroid chunks. All of those are fairly difficult to acquire. Well, I guess the easiest would be the quantum processors. So we're going to look at how to create the eggs and how to get the asteroid chunks. The quantum processors we'll assume you already have in abundance and are available for use. So, but we will be looking at the other two. Now there's a couple of different ways to go about getting these two or creating the science packs. The first method is that you can build a ship that goes out into Shattered Planet territory, and we've done that before during our trip to the Shattered Planet. We see many Promethean chunks being dropped from the Promethium asteroids here. You can build a ship, gather those chunks, bring them all the way back to Nauvis, upload eggs from Nauvis to that ship, and then create the science packs that way. Very viable method. Very safe method, as you don't have to worry about the eggs hatching on your ship, but it does have some negatives in the sense that Promethean shards are very difficult to store. Promethean shards don't stack. They can only put one space on your ship for them. In your hub, like for example, if we go to our guy here, it takes up like one space for each one. So you'd have to have a very large ship with a lot of storage and probably use some technique to store them on the belts and that kind of thing. A little safer, but a little bit more difficult to probably get a higher throughput, at least without building many large ships to bring a large quantity of the Promethium shards back. We're not going to do it that way. We're going to bring the eggs with us out to Shattered Planet territory because the Promethium Science Packs stack way better than the Promethian shards do. So we could store way more on a much smaller ship and effectively get better throughput out of it. So that's the approach we're going to use, but of course that will have its own challenges because the biter eggs only last for 30 minutes. So we got to get all that done. We've got to get there and back in a very short period of time. And this is the ship that we have. I call it the Beetle because it looks like it has legs on all sides here. And as we just mentioned, speed is of the essence. So I added these engines towards the front of the T-junction of the ship. That gives us a lot of extra speed, which we'll be able to showcase in a little bit. And we have a very large set of engines here on the back to get us as fast as possible. We don't want to go too wide, obviously, because asteroids will be flying by here. We do have a couple of lasers here on the tips just to be safe if any smaller chunks try to get close, especially here on the bottom. That can be fairly common for small to medium chunks to wander in and clip the edge here. So we've got to make sure we protect us with some of those lasers. Now, this distancing is crucial. I think we have here, you have to have these pretty far back. If you notice here at the bottom, when I do this, as soon as you drag an engine, that red column there can't be anything built there. It has to become empty space. But if you go far enough away, that red line starts to disappear. And the distance we have here is exactly far enough. You see here, it's still red, but we lose the red as soon as we get up to this point. So I've made that so it's exactly the right distance. So we're going to get thrust from all of these engines in order to get to the Shattered Planet as quickly as possible. Well, not the Shattered Planet, pardon me. Just the Shattered Territory, so we can collect the Promethium shards. So let's look at the nose of the ship here, pretty much the hammerhead section of it. We have an array of railguns. Now I am also using the rocket launchers here. There's two ways to go about this. If you don't want to use rocket launchers, you can go just purely railguns. Because we're not going terribly deep into Shattered Planet territory. You know, we don't have to go to it gets really crazy. So you could put more railguns here. However, if you do that, that means you're not going to have as many arm grabbers. and that means you're not going to be able to pull in as many of the shards as fast as you possibly could. I chose to have a few fewer railguns and still have the rocket launchers. That allows us to go extremely fast, even through Shattered Planet territory, and still feel relatively safe. And we have a lot of arm grabbers to clean up all the shards, so they don't touch the ship. We'll talk about some of the efficiency, what we want to consider when building in an optimal manner, as best we can anyway. And the rest is just filled in with as many gun turrets and lasers as we could fit in. Mostly gun turrets because we don't want to consume too much power. This is only a dual fusion reactor ship. We don't have the 4, so we're only operating 400 megawatts, not the 1.2 gigawatts that we had for our Shattered Planet build. So we want to be a little bit more conscientious of our power consumption. So we don't go too heavy on the lasers. We do have a few lasers, spread out here and there, just to make sure we get rid of all of the smaller ones, and just to fill up some of that space as well. We don't want to have too much space left over. But again, it's the rockets that are going to carry much of the weight, and the gun turrets will finish most things off. And these arms should be working full time as much as possible. The rest of the ship is fairly standard now. I do have this pattern quite a bit for resourcing, processing the chunks into usable resources, and then we have water generation with the fuel, and then we kind of have a little bus on the outside here. We do now have legendary cryo plants that allows us to use a smaller number of them, which is quite nice. Just saves on a little bit of space, and we do that kind of on both sides. We have a more or less mirror image, but not 100% because the fuel can't really do that, and we only need one ammo producing assembler, so we don't we kind of lose the symmetry there, but we put the cryo what do you call this thing, turning the hot fluorochetone into cold. Yeah, and then the rest is very similar as before. We've got our rocket producing here, but it's much smaller. And then we also have the rail guns, and this is probably a little bit overproducing as well, but a little better to have a little more than not enough. And then we have as many as we could squeeze in here, the cargo bays. Now, we're not using all of the space, although we could use more of it. It depends on how many eggs we could store on the ship safely before they start to hatch. And we'll get into some of the resourcing and the numbers for that. So I have right now, let's see, this guy is going to be able to pull in 50,000 eggs. So we're carrying 50,000 eggs with us. And if we want to make some calculations off of that, if you look at the cryo plant, it actually has a productivity of 200%. With legendary productivity mods in here, you get a productivity of 200%. So that means this factory will produce 3 times the output per item's input. Okay, so if this thing requires 10 biter eggs, we're actually going to be producing, since this is actually by default a one-to-one relationship, by default we would get 10 biter eggs and 10 Promethium Science Packs. We're going to get 3 times that. So it's going to be 30 Science Packs for every 10 biter eggs. So if we bring up 50,000 eggs, we'll be bringing back 150,000 Science Packs. So those are the ratios we'll be working with, and those are going to be important for some further calculations down the line. So we've got to keep that in mind, so we remember some of those numbers. Yeah, and the rest is fairly standard. Here we just make sure we also upload the quantum processors, and that is pretty much 10 times less if you look at the actual formula again. It's only one quantum processor for 10 biter eggs, so that's 10 times less. So we just have only 5,000s we have to bring up instead of 50. So you see that number right there. And we just have, we're only going to use one slot for repair packs, and we're only going to use one slot for our fusion power cells. We're not going to be traveling for terribly long. It's got to be like about 30 minutes or around there for a round trip, because the biter eggs only last for 30 minutes anyway. All right, we'll keep this unchecked for now. We don't want the ship to move until we actually sort out a few other things. And that's going to be how the heck we're going to create the eggs to fill this guy. Of course, we don't want to wait forever. 50,000 eggs is quite a lot of eggs, and we don't want to wait forever for the eggs to get up here. Otherwise, the first load of eggs will start to hatch before the last eggs actually get loaded. So we have a little method for doing this. You can see I've already built quite a bit for a lot of my tests here, but we have blueprints for all this. I will be sharing all of the blueprints so you guys can check them out. There's a blueprint here for egg production, I call it, and we're going to walk over exactly how this works. It's actually pretty neat. I'm not going to place this here because we already have one right next to it, identical. And we're going to talk about how it works and how we put it together, okay? You'll see there are captive biter spawners all along the side of the silos. The nice thing about the biter spawners is that the biter eggs do not spoil while in the spawners. So that's why we have a direct, pretty much linkage to the silos here. Now, of course, these are not legendary. We could make legendaries, although that's pretty time consuming. I haven't done that yet, although it's not really necessary. Of course, we're doing it here without legendaries, but these biter spawners will not be producing fast enough for these silos to be launching continuously. So what I've done here, in order to utilize all the biter eggs, is that we've daisy chained. If you see, there's actually inserters going all the way down the chain of silos, all the way to the bottom. So this one at the bottom is the one that's going to be firing the most often. However, the first time the ship arrives in orbit around Nauvis, all these biter eggs will be full, and it'll fill up the silos very, very quickly, allowing for multiple launches simultaneously. So we should be able to fill up our ship pretty quick that way. Of course, the faster you want your ship to load, the more of these, these column of silos we can create. We can just duplicate the blueprint a few times. Okay. So that's that, but there are a little bit of circuitry that we need to configure here. I'm going to walk through the blueprint for the circuitry, just so we understand it. So let's do that. So this little bit of circuitry here, I call it, it just determines when to launch eggs up into orbit. Okay, so there are a couple of things to consider here. The first one are these two constants. These are what you're going to have to provision if you use this blueprint. Now I've defaulted this to 150,000 and 300,000. So you remember when we talked about how many science packs? Well, that's what this number is. This number is the maximum amount of Promethium Science Packs on a ship in orbit. So our ship can produce a maximum of 150,000 science packs. Okay, so that's what this means. That's what that number is representing. The M is the maximum number of storage of Promethium Science in the planet's cargo bay. So I'll show you what that is. I think that should be fairly self-explanatory. We should be able to see that right here. Somewhere. There we go. So we got 300,000 Promethium Science Packs capable of being stored here. We have 0 right now because we're going to do this as a demonstration to see how the ship works. But that's the number you want to put in there. Okay. Now these numbers get fed into this little bit of circuitry here, fairly simple circuitry. It takes the maximum possible that could be stored in your cargo bay and subtracts that with the current number of science pack that you have. That current number is currently 0. That gives us A, which is the available, I call it the available number of science packs we have that we could possibly store in the cargo bay. Okay, so pretty simple calculation there. So we have to actually bring in that circuitry, or those values. So we have to bring in the Promethium Science Packs. And what I've done here is I've just connected a radar. It's actually a neat little thing that radars have in space age. If you actually connect a wire to your hub here, it'll transmit all of the data from that hub anywhere on the planet. So we're transmitting that information via that radar. We're going to pick it up via this radar is going to receive it. Where the heck is it? Right here. Okay, so all we have to do is say, take a little red or green wire, doesn't really matter. I've been using green just to differentiate. And we'll bring in that number right here. So we have to, if we actually had some science packs there, that would actually be a non-zero value. All right. Then once we have that, we actually feed the available number of science packs. And as long as that number is greater than the maximum number of science packs a ship can hold, then we'll enable uploading of eggs. So you see this is actually green, which is good. That means we have enough room here on the planet to download a full ship's worth of science packs. But of course, this condition is not green, and this just is the biter requests from a ship in orbit. So if you notice, I do have that turned off. Let's take a quick look just for now so we can walk through and explain everything. This is turned off, so we're not requesting any eggs at all from the ship. So that's why you see here on the planet that this is turned off. And that is just some garbage. Don't have to worry about that. So in order to get that information, however, we need to plug in to any silo. It doesn't really matter which. Any one of these silos will do. Any one of those we have created from the previous blueprint. And we have to do this here, read orbital request. You got to make sure that's checked. It's not checked by default. So anytime then we have something in orbit, you'll see we have, well, that one is erroneous. I was just testing something with the shards there. It'll actually show up here if there's any requests from a ship up in orbit. If there's any unfulfilled requests. Okay, so when we start this, that number will turn on. It'll say 50,000 eggs, and everything then should turn on. So we take those two values and we just output a signal called W. That means working. And in this case, it's going to be these inserters will be working. So you got to take a signal from there, plug it into these inserters, okay? And it'll just turn them on if W is 1. And that is for all of these all the way up the line. So if there's requests in orbit, we're going to turn it on, and there has to be enough room here on the planet to download the science packs before those arms get turned on. Otherwise, we're not going to upload any eggs at all. This is make sure we don't upload so many eggs up onto our ship, and the ship just sits there idle, not going anywhere because it has science packs that it doesn't know what to do with them, you know. Because that could be bad if you have like 5, 10,000 or more, or somewhere in that, just eggs sitting on your ship. It could eventually hatch, and they could wreak some havoc if they're in large enough numbers. So we do want to avoid that. So that's the way I solve that problem. It works pretty well, and we'll showcase that in a minute. Okay. So that's that. I think we got good enough there. We do have a blueprint also for, of course, the ship itself. We have that right here, and I call it the Beetle, and we have that there. So I've created, of course, this will load up the ship pretty quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 of these silos. We'll get quite a bit of eggs being uploaded to our ship with this. And we'll take a look at how that works. All right, let's go back up to our Beetle. Oh, the other thing I should mention is there's a little bit more circuitry on the ship. This little circuit here controls at what point do we turn around. Because if we don't put in this logic on the ship will keep traveling forever into shattered planet territory. That's not good. It'll eventually get destroyed, so we need some way for it to turn around. And of course, we want that to be automated. And I just pretty much do half of whatever number of eggs this ship can hold as a maximum number. So we're going to be uploading 50,000 eggs, and therefore we're going to turn around once we've actually consumed half of the eggs. So that's 25,000. All right, so that just is fed into our circuitry here. And if we're no longer, that condition of eggs is no longer met, we turn around and come back. That's kind of the way that works. Okay, And last but not least, we also have some throttling on this ship. Okay, what happens here once we fly out to Shattered Planet territory, right? So the basic philosophy is we want to be going as quickly as possible until we get out here, and this is all pretty safe territory now. We could build ships that could fly nearly as fast as we could possibly make them go without taking any damage. But of course, once we get out here, things start to get a little dicey. So we want to potentially slow down once we get there. And that's what this circuitry does. So once we consume 3,000 of the eggs, so we travel as fast as we can out there, we start consuming eggs. As we get further and further into Shattered Planet territory, we'll start bringing in those shards, and we'll start converting those shards into science, and while doing so also consuming some of the eggs. So once we can consume 3,000 of the eggs, once we have 47,000 left, we are going to trigger this condition here. And that's going to turn off these engines. So we have a little pump here that will be enabled only if this condition is on. So as long as we're greater than 47,000 eggs, both the engines on either side will be on. Okay. Now we also have a second condition, because once we get really far into Shattered Planet territory, it gets even denser still. So I got a second throttle. So once we start going below 32,000, we've had to use some hydro poles here to get the signal all the way down to the bottom here, but it'll turn off these 4 engines on each side. See from this guy here. Okay, that'll bring us down to about under 400 kilometers per second, a relatively safe space for or safe speed for a ship like this. And that's totally fine, because we're going to be rained down with so many shards. Speed isn't going to matter at that point. These arms will be inundated with shards, and we won't need to be going all that fast at all. But until that point, we really need to be going fast as we possibly can to make sure the eggs don't hatch on us. We want to be as efficient and as optimal as we can. Okay. Anything else that comes to mind? I think we could probably talk about as we start flying. So I'm going to start turning this thing on. I think we talked enough. I need to just turn off on this request. Okay, that's going to turn things on. Boom. We're going to turn off this passenger present, like so. And I just think, did I turn this? Yeah, we're going to turn these off on too. Okay. All right, you'll see this guy here is not turning on. And why is that? Requests, please. Why is he not turning on? 50,000 eggs being requested. Oh, here. I just need to get rid of this, I think. There. All right, there we go. That circuitry was actually doubling up with the existing circuitry. All right. So all of these guys. Well, they're not all firing. And why is that? Here, let's do this. You have to make sure this signal is on our network here. There we go. All right, all of them should now be launching. And in glorious fashion, we had a whole bunch of rockets sort of going at once here. Now this guy already launched a couple times, and as I said, the eggs will get funneled down after the first couple launches. But the first time, nearly all the rockets go. And then you can see this guy will be empty. It pushes all the eggs down until these last. See, there's some eggs here. So these two will fire at the bottom until they kind of get empty. But you'll see if we go up to our ship, this guy will be loading up pretty darn fast. It already has 11,000 eggs on it, or 17,000 with 10,000 on the way. We already have almost half the amount of eggs on board. So that's kind of how that works. It allows you to get a kind of a burst launch of eggs without wasting any of the eggs after the third or fourth launch. So the last half is going to go quite a bit more slowly, but it still should still go fairly quickly. We probably only have to wait maybe a minute or two. So you've got a lot of room in here. So when all is said and done, we should have what 50,000 times 3. We should have 150,000 Promethium science to bring back to the planet once everything is launched and we come back home. All right. So we'll keep an eye on this. It'll take just maybe a couple of minutes here, and then we'll be launching, and we'll see how fast. There's 6,000. So let's go down to the planet again. Yeah, I see now it's just these bottom ones that are launching rockets, which is totally fine. It's kind of gone over the spike period now, but at least it's we're making sure we get every single one of these biter spawners. We're utilizing all of them, and they're as fresh as the eggs can be. They're going directly. Okay, so we have enough. That's what I wanted to show as well. When things are all done, these turn off, and then these turn on, filling up these recyclers just to destroy any leftover eggs. We don't want eggs just sitting in here, otherwise they'll hatch, and that's a bad idea. We don't want stale eggs sitting anywhere for this operation. We always want 100% fresh eggs being launched up to the surface, so that's why we do that. And you can see the ship's already moving, so we got our condition met, we got our 50,000 eggs, and we are off. And you can see they're fairly fresh. It didn't take that long. They're 85% freshness there. And we are clipping along at a nice 500. Well, once we get on the other side of a planet, we actually go up to 600 kilometers per second, which is a nice fresh speed. As I said, we want to get through this area as quickly as we can. Very little danger in these areas. We can quickly talk about my research here as well. I've been messing around here for a while. You don't need huge numbers. Like I got 19 laser damage. We got 18 physical. What do we have for like railgun shooting speed? Doesn't matter. It's capped at like 4 anyway. I got way more than we need there. Damage for railguns is 10. And the explosives is 21. That's, again, I think more than we need. But just for your own curiosity, that's what I have. You can all see the numbers there. I think this would work with far less numbers. I mean, you could play with it and adjust as appropriate, but those are the numbers that I have. All right, we've now entered Shattered Planet territory. We're starting to pick up our first Promethium shards, and you'll see them funneling through here into our Promethium Science Packs cryo plants, and we're starting to make our first Promethium Science. We'll see a few of those slowly starting to come out here. It's already over 200. Doesn't take long. Doesn't take long. It's pretty efficient. So we'll be traveling at this speed, pretty fast speed in Shattered Planet territory, 580 kilometers per second, for as long as we can. In fact, we might even be able to go a little bit longer than this. But we'll leave it like that, 300 kilometers, or sorry, 3,000 kilometers in. We'll start our first slowdown, so we'll just keep an eye on it until then. We still have a lot of eggs, barely started getting into the eggs here. They still have a 70% freshness, so all is good. Let's watch it and see how it goes. Check our speed here. Oh, yeah, we just slowed down. We just hit the 47,000 egg marker, and just good timing too. Start getting a little thicker. The arms are getting pretty busy, but still pretty safe though. I don't think there's too much trouble, but we still will get a much heavier density now. The important part will be when these belts get to full capacity. That's when our whole ship will be working at peak performance. Alright, we should be getting a decent amount coming through here now. The next kind of milestone will be at, well, we will start slowing down, what did I say, at, what's the next speed? Won't be for a little while. 32,000. Actually, probably won't be that long, to be honest. It's a little bit. And then we'll be turning around at 25k, but we should be getting nearly full belts coming in pretty soon now. At 200,000 kilometer mark, I think we'll get some decent density. So one way to make sure your ship is operating at optimal capacity is if the arm grabbers are picking up all of the shards. As soon as you start seeing some of the shards hitting your ship, you know you're going too fast, or you don't have enough arms on your ship to pick up all of the shards coming towards you. So that's one way to gauge it, if you need to increase or decrease your speed. If you're not having enough, if you're pretty safe and you don't have enough shards coming in, increase your speed so you get to a denser area of the shattered planet space. And once you get to a good spot, slow down and make sure you grab everything, so you don't have to go too deep and then have the area get too dangerous. So it's I think it makes a pretty big difference, like even a difference of 30 or 40 kilometers per second. You bring it down a little bit, you're in safer territory, you don't need as many guns, you don't need as many ammo generation, the whole thing, right? Making sure the arms are working optimally, I think will help you make sure you have an optimal ship. Like here, like now this is completely full, so really we don't have to go any faster here. Now you want to do that, intelligently. If you slow down too much too soon, you're not going to have as many shards coming towards the ship, and your density and your performance will drop a bit. So we will do our slowdown at, we said, what, 32? So we still have another like 7,000. So we're going to push it into shattered planet space a little more before we have our next slowdown. But you can tell this is getting pretty busy now. I think some of the shards might even start hitting the ship here. And this guy's so full he can't even unload. Like the belt is now over full. So we got now 100% operation here out of this. So that's good to see. This we will be consuming eggs optimally now. And it's still pretty safe. So going at max velocity here still is not, or not max velocity, but at the higher velocity still doesn't hurt. Pretty much in second gear. We'll be going down to third shortly. Yeah, and you can tell too, once the arms don't have to go out as far to grab things, your density is getting a little thicker. Freshness on the eggs is still good. We're just under 50%. We're at 34.5 thousand. And we'll be slowing down to 32. So let's wait for the slowdown here. And there we go. Yeah, and we certainly don't need to be going faster. So a slowdown at this point seems to be about right. Our arms are... these guys over here are grabbing materials almost instantly. Yeah, but after the slowdown, you'll probably see the arms, go a little extended again until we get a little more density. One more time before we do our turnaround. But yeah, these belts should stay pretty much completely full. Our density now is nearly optimal. 30,000. Okay, we're gonna change directions at about 25,000. and then we'll be heading back. Check the freshness of our eggs. Still awesome. We have like already 60,000 Promethium Science made. Man, it goes pretty quick. And there we go. We just had our change of direction. So we should be now under 25,000. And as soon as we change direction too, the speed goes up a little bit naturally. So in order to compensate, I've actually played with this value a little bit. We stay at a slower speed for a little bit longer. We go down to the slower speed at 18 kilometers into the Shattered Planet space in terms of how many eggs, but then we go to 15,000 coming out, so we'll stay at a slightly slower speed for a little bit longer. And that'll keep us in some of the higher density space for a little bit longer, just to be sure we consume all of the eggs. Now we're coming out of it. Things will start getting less and less dense. And we've still got 10 minutes left on the freshness timer, although, yeah, these seeds are getting consumed pretty quick. These belts are still 100% full. 19,000 eggs. We're doing awesome. We can do a quick check on our power. I think we have way under 400 megawatt being consumed. Got a few accumulators on board. Just every once in a while it goes over 400, but the average is way under 400, probably more like 150 or 200, so certainly fine on power. And we'll be turning the engines back on at 15K. Which will be shortly. Come on, eggs, get consumed. Easy peasy. Yeah, the density did, you could kind of tell the density did drop a little bit, but I think we've still got a full 2 fill belts coming in. Getting a few spaces in there now. So right about now would be just about time for a speed up. Still fairly dense every once in a while, which is interesting. Oh, there we go. We just bumped up to higher speed again. Still got like 8 minutes. Lots. Over 100,000 already made. It doesn't take long at all. Most time is like traveling to and from. So you want to have a reasonably sized cargo hold and convert as kind of much as you can while you're here to make, you know, best use of the trip. But you know, there are cons to that too. The further you go, the more UPS hit you're going to get, which is bad. You don't want to get that craziness, so you don't really have to go terribly deep. So I don't know, you got to find a reasonable balance. I'm finding kind of a medium ship with fairly large cargo hold going as fast as possible is kind of the best way to go. You could have a really wide, long ship, go a little slower, and go really far into this area with a massive cargo hold. But yeah, I don't know if that's wise. You'd have to then have like many belts. You have to belt all the eggs and things to some of the cryo plants and just surround them with belts of shards, Promethium shards, and you'd have to do a lot more complicated belting here up front. You need like 4 belts coming in. The complication could get pretty extreme pretty quick. A lot more extreme than what we have here. I like this ship because it's pretty straightforward and simple. And it's fast. And it gets the job done in some pretty good numbers. And if we just need to add more, you just add another ship, take the blueprint, plop it down, and off you go. And you shouldn't have to change your facilities back on Nauvis in terms of egg production. That egg production plant could probably handle like 6 of these ships or something. Because right now that it's pretty much idle. All the eggs we're creating on Nauvis right now aren't being used for anything. Until we get back. Might also worth be noting here as well, I haven't talked about this, but your priority for your railguns, for example, and your rockets, you should have some of them staggered. Like see this one I have carbonic first, and then this one goes to metallic. I don't think I have anyone on ice. When we do have that here, we have, kind of do want most of them to target the Promethium first, so you kill the Promethium as quickly as possible so the arms have time to grab them. Then we have some ice, then carbonic, then ice, and then metallic. There's no real rhyme or reason to it, pattern, what goes first. I think at first the carbon is fairly common when you're at the very start, and then as you get further in, the carbon gets much more rare, and ice becomes much more common. Then Promethium becomes much more common as well. Steel is, or the iron is fairly common all throughout, you know. As long as you switch it up a little bit, it seems to help, so you don't have like a stray asteroid sneaking through your defenses. Alright, look at that. Not too many left. Under 6,000. We should be bumping up to max speed pretty soon. Which one is this one? This one here. As soon as you get under 3,000. Not nearly as many Promethium shards now. This will certainly not be at 100% anymore. We'll see some gaps in here, but still a reasonable amount. And we never seem to run out of the, I think we're just creating enough of the rockets. You see, these have been running almost 100% of the time, but not the railguns. Railguns, we probably have a little extra there. I was initially planning to go with some more railguns, but then I kind of kept the rockets and kept the railguns relatively sparse. I believe this is the better choice. There we go. All engines all fired up. We'll be hitting 600 kilometers per second. Blast our way out of here, and yeah, we just could use up the last of this. Less than 3,000. Still quite a bit of time. Like 5 minutes left on those timers. Probably more like 7 minutes. Like oh, 5 minutes on both. Look at that. That's amazing. So pretty much caught up. Less than 100,000. Hopefully we'll consume all of these eggs. I think so. Like only 1,000 left here. Should be just about right. Probably have a little bit of the Promethium shards on the belt. And the last of the eggs have been consumed. So we should get a nice 150,000. So always extra 40. But yeah, eggs are gone. So these last eggs just get stuck here in the machine. I think that's probably where the extra or we're missing like 60 of these eggs in here. And there's no way to get them out. They'll expire, and the lasers here will just take care of them. That's why those lasers are there. And we'll be coming out of Shattered Planet territory very soon at max speed, and then we'll be back at Nauvis, and then we're going to unload. And we'll load this 150,000 worth of Promethium Science Packs. We'll start our research again. Yeah, and the arm's now turned off. Everything is completely full with Promethium shards. So it might be nice to have a way to store the shards by adding maybe a belt through here that just has kind of a winding path. So some of these, like these, are all getting wasted now. Of course, we could just turn around just a tad sooner. Maybe it's a little bit difficult to say. I'll just pop this up to 400. 25.4 just to be a little bit sooner. Don't want to go too much sooner. I'd rather have a little extra of the Promethium shards and some extra eggs. And by the way, there is a safety mechanism on here. If there are some eggs on board when we leave Shattered Planet territory, we're going to start ejecting them. So this these criteria here. So if there's like Shattered Planet to Aquilo or Solar System's Edge, this turns on, and that makes sure these inserters are turned on, which filter out just for the eggs. But there's no eggs on board, so those don't have to do anything. Everything worked pretty slick. Let's just make sure you don't have a whole bunch of extra eggs that might wreck your ship, just in case. So it's a relatively safe system. Not too many ways it can break unless you get some resourcing issues. There are ways to get a lot of eggs on board without the ship launching. Like if you don't have enough of the quantum processors, for example, on Nauvis, you will start uploading eggs, and then the ship will just sit there waiting for the quantum processors to arrive. And if you have a resourcing problem where you're not delivering or making quantum processors, the ship could potentially get destroyed by a whole bunch of biters. So that's something to think about when you implement this design or use these blueprints if you so choose to. There probably are ways to resolve that, but everything probably has a pro and con. The circuitry could start getting fairly complex. I think I added enough circuitry here just to, you know, get things working without being overly crazy, right? Alright, here we are. Final approach to Nauvis. Traveling at 600 kilometers per second. I love seeing that. As soon as we land here, you'll see all the science packs being sent down. I think that must be all the space we have. And you can see the eggs are being sent back up for the next load. Look at all that. Look at all those science coming down here. Wonderful. Beautiful. So we should definitely have enough room on the ship for a second load. If we look at our system here, we now have 137 and available is 164, which is more than 150 that a ship can hold. So we'll be sending eggs up for another trip. Of course, then when that next trip comes back with some more science, if we haven't spent all the science yet, which we likely won't, our science isn't that crazy. Our science spending is not nearly as fast as what the ship can bring in. That ship will just wait there and not send up any more eggs. It'll hold on to that science that was on board and say, I'm not going out again until all the science is spent. And, oh, what's going on here? Why is this dumping out eggs? Oh, I thought I turned this off. Okay, we don't want this. There's some of the extra circuitry we've added there. And how come all this science hasn't been sent down? Oh, you know what happens? I think I know what happens. Some of the extra science, some of the extra shards that we had on the belt got used up, and then we created a little more science. But that should be fine. That should be sent down. I don't know why it's not getting sent down. Yeah, we have plenty of room. So, yeah, there's no reason for that to be staying up here. Yeah, it's gone. I figured it would. All right, so yeah, that's gonna now just start the second round here. Now, we should be loading up the quantum processors faster than the eggs. Our first batch of eggs, of course, will go a little faster, but then it will slow down. And then we should get a whole bunch of these coming. Yeah, see it's starting to catch up there. Those eggs do get loaded pretty fast. Let's just watch that to make sure that all works. So we get like kind of a full loop here going on. Yikes. Well, let's get a load of quantum processors here. Only needs 4 more anyway. The last load. Oh my goodness, come on. Come on. Wow, we got the eggs actually faster. Although this should be right coming like right now. Right now? This last one is taking a little while. So yeah, I think our egg launching facilities that's probably overkill for this as well. We probably have too many egg launchers here. We can't even get the quantum processors up as fast. All right, there we go. So that's now, and the ship is off for its second run. All right, so that is working pretty much as intended. So Nauvis now should be happy with a bunch of science. The Promethium Science is here. We have it churning away. It's got like still 140,000. That'll be more than enough for that ship to go and come back. All right. So that's it. That is the ship. I will definitely post this on Factory Bin. Make sure the blueprints are there for you guys to check out at your leisure. And I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day, everybody. And remember, make every day a better day. Have a great life. Bye-bye, guys. See you later.